This is one of those like childhood to adulthood lessons. And the earlier we learn this, the less painful the rest of our lives will be, is that we can't fix everything. There are certain problems you cannot fix. There are certain things that are happening, certain ways that people are being that you cannot change. That's the truth. And it sucks that that's true if you want to fix it, but it is the truth. And so if it's like, hey, you're banging your head against this brick wall, the brick's never going to break. Your head will break before the brick does. It's best to know that ahead of time. It's best to know that it's brick and not like some flimsy wood that you can eventually crack. It's best to know what you're up against. Both eyes open. That's the state of adulthood. And that's one of those frustrating lessons. It's like, hey, my parents don't know everything. And there's a lot of stuff they're wrong about. And actually, they taught me a bunch of stuff that now I have to unlearn. That's one of the early realizations of like teenagehood into adulthood. And another one of those, there are several, but another one of those is I can't fix everything. Some things that I don't like are going to stay that way. And there's nothing that I can do about it. And if I hope for the best and have, relentless optimism and I just wish for it really hard, it still may not come true. I can give the absolute best I can give to something, pour my absolute heart and soul into it, and it still may not happen. I can love somebody with all of myself and it still may not work out. All of these things, these are the perspectives that in childhood we were downloaded the opposite of. Do what you love and the money will follow type shit. And it's like, that's just not true. But only an adult knows that. And there's a lot of adults who are still children. They're biologically adults, but they're psychologically children. And part of the process of crossing over is opening up both your eyes and looking at things clearly and saying, oh, this sucks and it's always going to suck. Maybe, I'm not saying like all things change, of course, but let's say in your lifetime, this situation persisted for the duration of it. Could you still have a beautiful, amazing life? Yeah. Yeah, you could. Yeah, you could. What if you never solve this problem and you live with it for the rest of your life? Could you still have a beautiful, amazing life? Yeah. But if you kept trying to solve it and banging your head against the brick wall, could you still have a beautiful, amazing life? Less likely, right? That's not to say do nothing, but it is to say don't bang your head against brick walls. Another thing I wanted to say is that when I look at it in the world, there's almost nobody with a similar perspective. It can feel very lonely. So it's refreshing to hear other people are struggling in the same way. Yeah, that's the value of a community like this one and communities like this one. Others are out there too. And I think to add to that, I think a lot of the time it's that people aren't very open about their suffering. It's not that other people aren't sharing the same perspective or they aren't suffering in the same way. It's that they're not as open about that and they're not talking about it. And when they are talking about it, it's clouded in layers of aggression and layers of like, they're smuggling the thing that they're really in pain about underneath all of this, like, fuck you, I'm right, you're wrong, like all of this aggression and polarization. And they're suffering, but they're not in touch with their suffering, and they're certainly not open about their suffering. So you can keep that in mind. And that's one of those other, to continue down that list of adult realizations, the process of maturity. When you mature into an adult, you realize there's not very many adults out there. And when when you become an adult, the fact that there's not very many adults out there kind of sucks. That's another one of those problems that you're probably not going to solve. And another one of those brick walls you don't want to bang your head against because it's going to hurt. And the more you bang your head against it, the more it's going to hurt.